Television, the drug of a nation, breeding ignorance and feeding radio.
They could pretty much manipulate it as much as they wanted to.
You're provoking me. I throw this plate at you.
I felt like being psychologically beaten up.
I want you to leave us alone.
Let's start to peel away these levels of reality.
Television.
Might as well throw the Christians out there, let them get eaten by the lions. Same thing.
Tonight on Panorama, we report from inside the reality television revolution. It's cruel, it's voyeuristic, and often humiliating, and it seems we can't get enough of it. As broadcasters wake up to the huge commercial benefits of putting the public center stage, we ask just how far television is prepared to go to keep us tuned in and turned on. Across the globe, from the tropical desert island of the Survivor program to Big Brother's specially constructed house in East London, the spectacle of people laying themselves bare for the cameras, so-called reality TV, has made for compelling viewing. But at the same time, it has raised questions about the exploitation of those that take part and the responsibilities of the industry.
I think there's a very genuine problem with Big Brother, as well as many of the other programs of the genre, and not just in damaging contestants, but I think in damaging us as viewers.
This is only television. My God, there are real issues in the world.
Big Brother was the broadcasting event of the summer. It attracted record ratings for Channel 4, generated acres of news coverage, and marked a radical departure for British television. Some say that it's set to revolutionize what we watch. The concept was this: place 10 people in a house, put them under 24-hour surveillance, and ask them to compete against one another for a cash prize.
It was the most incredibly nervous day. Just thinking, my God, you know, will I like these people or will they like me, was the most sort of primary fear that one had.
In a really restricted environment, a very claustrophobic, very strange. I mean, the most intense environment I've ever been in all my life. Very intense, the most difficult 8 weeks I've had all my life.
This is Big Brother. Could villainy please come to the dining room?
And there was a further twist. The contestants were deliberately set against one another. Each week, they nominated a house member for eviction.
Oh, Craig.
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 Melanie.
Craig.
This is horrible.
It's so cruel.
The audience shared in the ritual cruelty by finally deciding who would leave the house.
The people that were nominated found it very, very, very difficult. And emotionally, when someone's going through a really tough time in such a very claustrophobic, restricted, strange, weird environment.
The makers of the show were putting the contestants in a psychological pressure cooker. So what precautions were taken to protect them? Were you screened by a psychologist before you went into the house?
Yeah, we were, all of us.
How much time did you have to spend with them?
About an hour.
I had a discussion with a psychotherapist for about 40 minutes. Now, I wouldn't describe that as adequate psychological profiling at all.
But the company that makes the program is adamant that they take the utmost care. How concerned are you for the safety of the people long-term who are involved in what is seen as a psychological experiment to some extent?
I think that we are extremely concerned about the safety of the people who participate in any television program. We'd be foolish not to be. In commercial terms, Big Brother is hugely important to this company, and therefore it is in our best interest to take care of the people.
There really ought to have been much more psychological screening. Clearly the participants in the programme did feel that they weren't given adequate psychological screening and did feel that they were misled about what would happen to them in the house.
Before they started, the participants were given a series of warnings, and then it was up to them.
They emphasise the fact you've got nowhere to hide. They emphasise the fact that there is going to be an enormous amount of media attention on this. And they're there to frighten you and to say, think about this now, think about it really seriously.
Once in the house, the participants were oblivious to how the editing and selection process was portraying them to a burgeoning audience.
It was presented in a way that the editors made the show. That they had the capacity to make anyone look very good or very bad with the flick of a switch.
Viewing figures soared and reached a peak when Nick Bateman, thereafter known as Nasty Nick, was caught trying to influence the voting system, much to the disgust of the House and the fascination of the rest of the nation.
Other people.
Like totally all respecting you, you know what I mean? I thought you were a clever guy.
Most people in this house have a lot of respect for you, Nick, and Caroline used to sing your praises at night time, and at the end of the day, I'm gutted.
I think, you know, once you leave it and you're able to step back from the situation and look, you know, how it's being conducted, therefore you become cynical. Because at the end of the day, we were just pawns, you know, in a game.
Suddenly, a TV show had the power to transform one of its participants into the most evil man in Britain.
I think one of the problems with the whole show is the public thought it was real. They lost sight it was a game show, and it became very personal to every member of the public watching it. They just reacted very badly to something they would probably do if they'd have been in the same situation.
Following Nick's eviction, tabloid interest turned toward Melanie Hill, the so-called praying mantis of the house. For Mel, the alarm bells rang at an early stage when the producers filmed an introductory video.
When they made my 2-minute video, they have a script written for you, which I found slightly strange anyway. And I looked at the script, and one of the lines on my script was, "Oh, and I'm Mel, and I'm a sexy little babe." And I just said, I'm not saying that because that's nothing I would ever say. I just, at that point, I just kind of, you know, started to feel very uncomfortable with it. But I rang up the producers, had a lot of conversation with them, and they reassured me. How naive of me.
I realised he's been looking at me for like 5 minutes.
When she saw her on-screen persona, she was not happy with the way she had been portrayed.
I just thought, my God, what is going on? The fact that the cameras could get so close to what was actually going on in the house.
Can't do this to every boy that leaves, can I?
Yes, you can.
I feel angry with the programme makers about that more than anything, because we had no idea what they were going to do with all the footage, and what they actually did was they manipulated it into our little stereotypes, and unfortunately those stereotypes aren't real, they're just caricatures, which is a shame.
The way you behave in the house is all you, and even if things are selected from it, it's still you. Now admit that what you see is a refracted image of those people, but then that's why it's a television show, not real life. And that's why it's a television show and not a pure experiment in psychology.
But when Mel came out, it was the hostile reception from some sections of the crowd, inspired by her Big Brother persona, that caused her the most distress.
I certainly know that when I came out of the house there was booing, and I know that there was a lot of people that really disliked me. I just wanted to disappear from everyone's view. I really didn't want anything to do with anyone. I just thought, if that's what they think of me, then that's fine, but I don't want to be here to experience any of this anymore.
The people who go into the house know what is going to happen, even, I accept, if they're not fully aware at the time of going in of the repercussions on their lives. But even that position, I think, is a little disingenuous. By the time you're 8 in the United Kingdom and you're reading Hello and you know what Posh Spice says about the plight that she finds herself in, you know what the media will do.
We chose people who were pretty resilient, and the psychological testing, as well as the interrogation by the production team, who are pretty used to doing this, they're pretty experienced, meant I think that we ended up with a group of people who were more able to deal with this situation than average. And I think that now they're pretty well equipped to deal with what most of life could throw at them.
Here you go, you knew it was coming. The Big Brothers, Caroline, Nicola and Sarah.
And there's no doubt that for some contestants, now basking in the limelight of their newfound celebrity, the whole experience has been worthwhile. But for Melanie Hill, who by and large avoided the limelight in the immediate period after she came out of the house, refusing lucrative offers from tabloid papers, there is a clearer understanding of the programme that changed her life.
I know, I'm very jealous, very jealous. That'll do, well it will do then. I'm certainly not a fan of it. I think the term reality TV is totally misleading. It's not real, it is TV, it is a production, it is highly edited, it is, the power of the production is incredible, and I think people should realise that. It's not real.
Well, it's only a game show.
Real or not, it's the TV that viewers want. And that's not lost on the industry gathered here in Cannes for their annual get-together. For Endemol, the company that makes and markets Big Brother, it means big business. Reality TV, having tapped into that advertiser's favourite, the youth market, has proved a highly lucrative business. In some countries, the stations that carry Big Brother have actually managed to double their audience share. No wonder then that at this year's Cannes, the Endemol catalogue is absolutely crammed full of spin-offs.
We knew pretty early on, or at least certain people in the company were convinced very early on that it was going to be huge. We didn't expect it to be quite this big.
Foreign versions of the show already contain racier material, explicit sex in Holland and Germany, and violence in, of all places, progressive Scandinavia. There are concerns that as the reality format expands globally, there will be a need to up the ante to keep audiences watching.
Now we get into the interesting question of how long will people sit still to watch what we're seeing on these kinds of Big Brother type shows, essentially to watch grass grow. How long will we sit still for this? And not for long. And what's going to happen is they're going to have to escalate the ante. And they escalate it through two basic forces, sex and violence.
With the second series of Big Brother on its way and a host of spin-offs already in production, the BBC has to decide whether to embrace the format. Would you be interested in commissioning a programme like Big Brother? Do you think that...
No, I wouldn't commission a programme like Big Brother.
Why is that?
I just don't think that it would work on public service television. I mean, interestingly, the people who made Big Brother said they deliberately didn't bring it to the BBC because they felt that we would spoil it. And I think we probably would have, you know, tried to underpin it with some more informational content of some kind. Now, that's not to say that we were wrong. I think Big Brother worked extremely well as entertaining television, but I'm not sure that we would have done it on the BBC.
If you want to comment on the issues raised in this programme, you can contact our website on bbc.co.uk/panorama. Next week, Britain underwater. What on earth's happening to the weather?